night, good evening, everybody. How's everyone doing tonight? Welcome to Crypto Junkies with Carlito and Tom. Very happy and excited to let everybody know that we have a member from the Bronxville Paranormal Society, my good friend, my Goomba, my Paisan, Al Santariga. You know, he's been around the world, the paranormal world, the cryptid world, the UFO world. He's done it all. He's got all that under his belt, and he's been on a lot of shows, talked about a lot of different things in the past. And tonight we have him here to talk about some UFO stuff, and I'm just really excited, and I'm humbled, and it's a pleasure to have him on our show. It means a lot to me. My good friend Al, thank you, Al. Welcome.
Thank you guys for having me. I mean, you guys have treated me with like open arms since the minute I met you guys, and it means a lot to my heart, man. It really does.
Carlito.
Yeah, man. Hey, Gal. Nice to finally have you back, man. We had a little pre-interview with Al, guys. Maybe I didn't know, but we did, and he gave us a lot of information. And like I've always told Tom, man, Al, he's the man, dude. He's the top dog. He's like a walking encyclopedia, basically, man. So yeah, we're honored to have you here, Al. Just like Tom said, you're the Godfather. On the cryptids and in the paranormal, you know what I mean? So yeah, man, absolutely. And we look up to you, Al, and we're glad to have you on, man. Finally.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm humbled by everything you guys said. I really am. No bullshit. It's my pleasure to be here, and anything I could do to help you guys along your path, I'll be more than happy to help you guys any way I can. But tonight, I'm going to talk about my UFO experiences because I know Carlitos has UFO stuff. And so I'm going to talk about that tonight. And you guys just let me know when you want me to start, and we'll get rocking and rolling.
Would you like to start with a quick little bio real fast to kind of how you got into it? How's that sound, Al?
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Yeah. My mom had premonitions her whole life. She would, when she slept, she would talk in her sleep all night long. And my father used to have to make her sleep in a different room because we'd keep him up all night talking. And I guess people would come to her at night when she slept and talk to her and stuff. So that's how it kind of got started in my family. My brother was a paranormal investigator back in the day. Used to go out, I believe, with Hans Holzer's best friend or partner or something like that. They would go out together, and they actually used Hans Holzer's medium, whatever her name was. I forgot her name. I should have wrote it down. But then he became a parapsychologist, and he did investigations. So growing up in my house, there was books, like a library of books on every subject there was, UFOs, ghosts, cryptids. So, every day I was grabbing another book and reading about them. And then, I always thought, like my paranormal life, my brother called me the X-Files. He said, if the X-Files ever need any episodes, they could come to you. But I always thought growing up that my life was normal until I started like talking to my friends and stuff, and they'd like, dude, that's not normal. Normal people don't have those kind of experiences,
Yeah.
So, but my aunt was a white witch, and she had to take the evil eye off me a couple of times, over my lifetime. And so it's just in my blood, it's in my family, and that's how it all got started,
So this was like ever since you were a kid, Al, basically? Within your family and all that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. When I was like 5 years old, I think I told you guys this story. When I was like 5 years old, my grandmother passed away, and I got her room and her bed. And every night after she passed away, she would come in and tuck me in, and I would freak out. My father would say, "What are you worried about? It's your grandmother, But I'd be like, but she's dead, But my father didn't understand. If your grandmother's coming, it's a good thing, But that's how it started, I was like 4 or 5 years old. I started seeing my grandmother would come to me, and then just life, just everything started happening. Like my first UFO thing, I'll start with that because it's a fun story. My father had an A-frame garage, okay, and one side of it faced south towards New York City, and the other side faced north. And on Saturday night, me and my best friend Rich would go up on top of the garage roof, and we'd bring our radio and we'd be listening to the local rock station and stuff. And he would face south, I would face north, and we would sky watch. We both loved looking at the night sky, the stars and stuff like that. And one night we were up there, and we used to do this every Saturday night. And he would sleep over my house, I'd sleep over his house. And we had a grapevine in the backyard. My parents would like sit under the grapevine and, you know, eat raw clams and have beers and stuff. And we'd be up on the garage roof, you know. And one night we're sitting up there, and way up in the sky, like really high, we've seen these points of light, and they're doing figure eights. And you know, and where we were, you could see the air traffic of the city going by, you know, and east and west and north and south. And the air traffic was much, much lower than these points of light in the sky. So I says to my friend Rich, I said, hey, Rich, I got an idea, man. Let's check this out. And I jumped off the roof and I ran at my father's garage. And my father had this big flashlight, this giant flashlight that he used to use when he went crabbing at night. He just put the light in the water, and the crabs would come right up to the light, and he'd scoop them up, right? So I got my father's crabbing light. I went up on the roof, and I started doing like a Morse code. And these points of light stopped. They stopped dancing around, and they just stopped. And then we did it again, and one of them started doing like the same code back, you know? So then my friend Richie said, let me try it. So he tried it, and he did a Morse code. And then when he did it, the one that was doing the Morse code back dropped from like being as high as a star to just above the air traffic. You know, it just came straight down, boom, in the blink of an eye. It was like right there. So then I did it again, and it did the same code, and then we just freaked out, man. We got scared, you know. We were like 10 years old, you know what I mean? We jumped off the garage roof, ran into my room, and we went under the bed, and we hid under the bed for like 3 hours, you know, because we were freaked out, you know, because we thought we were going to get abducted or something, you know. And wow. That's how like my UFO stuff started, you know.
Wow.
And there was a time. Again, I must have been like 7 years old. Man, I was 10 at that one, so maybe I was around the same age, 10, 11 years old. I come out of my room one night, and my mother and father are watching Johnny Carson, right? It's 11:30 after the news. He would come on, and I come out, and I'm taking these giant steps, like I'm walking up a stairs. And my father turns to me and goes, where the hell are you going? And I said, I'm going home. And he goes, what do you mean you're going home? I said, yeah, I'm going to the moon. That's where I'm from, I told him.
What?
And he's like, okay. He turned me around, kicked me in my ass, sent me back to my bedroom. Went back to sleep in my bedroom. I wake up the next day. He goes, how was your trip? I go, what are you talking about? Because you went to the moon last night. I go, I had no idea what he was talking about. He goes, yeah, you sleepwalking, and you said you were going home, that's where you were from. Yeah.
You know what? That's crazy you say that, Al, because when I was real little, man, like I'm gonna say like in elementary, right? I would have like these kids pick on me or whatever, and I would tell them, I remember this. I would tell them like, hey, you don't know who you're fucking with, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know where I'm from. I'm not from here. I'm not from this planet. I remember I used to tell them that. And I don't know where the hell I got that from. But that's the way I felt back then. Like I had some type of like superpower or some shit, you know, in my mind, you know, being a kid, you know, 6, 7 years old. And I would tell them that, man. I would tell them like, hey man, don't fuck with me. You don't know what, you don't know who I am. You don't know what I'm capable of.
Right.
And I don't know where I got that from. It kind of reminded me of what you just said right now, where, you know, I'm going home, you know, going back home to the moon. But man, I don't know where I got that from, but I do remember saying that to kids back in elementary.
I was always attracted to the night sky from a young age, like 5 years old. 5 years old. We lived in a tenement building up on the 6th story, and I would sit on the fire escape, you know, at night and just look at the stars. I was just obsessed with the night sky. When I was a kid, I had all kinds of books on astronomy and astrology and just the stars in general. And I would say, man, I would love to go to the moon. I'd love to go out in space. And my friends would say, you're out of your mind. You won't be able to get back. And I'm like, man, that's where I'm supposed to be. And I'm like, I'm supposed to be up there, you know?
Yeah, no shit. We I guess I don't know, when we're little and we feel like we can relate to, like, the stars and all that. I guess we get some type of like vibe, or sixth sense thoughts or some shit like that,
Yeah,
because
there's a connection. There's some
there's
kind
a
of
connection.
connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's actually, I haven't told this to anybody, Tom, except my daughter. My daughter knows. She knows everything, 'cause I've told her, everything. But there's a lot of people that I don't tell, because I don't want to feel like, they might look at me crazy, which I am crazy, I know, but still, you know what I mean? I don't want them to tell me to my face like, you're fucking crazy, dude. No, fuck you. But there's certain things that I do reserve, believe it or not. But yeah, this one time, dude, I remember it was like I was like in first grade or some shit like that, man. I can't remember. Anyway, we were out in the with the kids, and playing. We were like in recess or something, whatever, and everybody kind of just went back. I guess the bell had rung or whatever, and everybody just kind of went back, whatever. And I was on I don't know if you guys remember that spider looking thing, kind of like monkey bars, but it was spider.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a little dome, right?
Yep,
Okay.
the dome.
Yeah. Well, back when people weren't so, what the word is for kids.
Sensitive.
Sensitive. There you go. That's a good word for it.
Yeah.
When they weren't scared of kids, climbing monkey bars 6 foot high, in elementary or stuff like that. Well, that little dome was, I'm gonna say, a good 5 feet, man. The highest point, the middle.
Yeah.
And I was up there, I remember, and I can't remember why, but like I was just, I don't know. I just decided to stay there for a couple more minutes or whatever, right? And I'm like, man, fuck that bell, I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna let them come get me or whatever. But anyway, I was just there at the very top, just kind of laying down and looking down on the ground. And I don't know if I got like dizzy or whatever, and I fell through the damn hole, bro. Like I guess I got too much into my thoughts that I fell through the damn hole. And I swear to you guys, just because I've never actually said this on any type of media or platform or anything like that. But I swear to you guys that when I fell, I felt like slow motion going down to the ground. And I remember stopping in midair right before I hit the ground. I remember stopping, right, like midair, dude, like boom, just stopping. And then I brought my legs and my arms down, and I landed okay. Like I didn't fall straight on my face or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And I remember, dude, I don't know why this is like a very vague memory that I have of that. And I think it was. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's a superpower, but I took it like a superpower as a kid. And and from there, I said, man, I got superpowers, dude. I fucking stopped in midair before fucking crashing on the ground or whatever. And I didn't tell anybody that, and nobody saw that either. So there was no witnesses. I can't really, have any type of witnesses that would say, that yeah, I saw that and that did happen. So I can't say it, but I'm just saying it on my behalf. That's what happened. And I remember that I stopped in midair, dude. I don't know how I did that. I stopped in midair. I didn't bust my ass on the ground. And then ever since then, I guess I thought I had some type of superpower, dude. I don't know. Maybe something was looking over me. I don't know. But, something divine or something spiritual or some shit. I don't know. But yeah, I didn't hit the ground like I thought I was, man. I stopped in midair.
Yeah,
I've never
maybe guardian angel caught you.
Maybe, yeah.
Straightened your ass out so you land on your feet.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I get it, man. Believe me, I've had so many crazy shit happen to me.
If you tell somebody, they're not gonna believe you, right?
Yeah, no, I get
right?
it. Yeah. Because that moment was just for you. That was a moment that was just for you.
Yeah.
And that's why there was nobody around, right? The schoolyard was empty.
Right.
It's like a ghost town, right?
Yes, exactly. Everybody was already back in classes and everything.
I'm getting goosebumps. I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. I am. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said. I swear to you guys, that's what happened, man. But if y'all won't believe me or not, that's whatever. But yeah,
just thought I'd share that. It happened. Yeah. It happened. It's your experience, and no one can take that away from you, bro.
Right. And I think those kind of things happen to you when you're alone. just for that reason. So you can't prove it to anybody, or nobody can witness, you know, no, you didn't have any type of witness or anything. So it's just you know what I mean? It's just you in your head, you know what happened. And I think that's what happens a lot of times too, when somebody sees a Bigfoot or a dogman or whatever, there's nobody else around to prove that you did, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's where the saying comes, I know what I saw and I know what I heard. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I put two and two together, and like, oh, okay, that's something that happens only when people are alone, or they have no way to prove it.
Yeah, it's something you don't tell anybody, just anybody, because you gotta tell that to people who can relate to this, to the experience, because it's such a personal experience.
Right,
that, a lot of people can't wrap their heads around that shit.
Right. And unless somebody else had something similar happen to them, then they will believe you. But if somebody never had anything like that, they're not gonna believe you. They're gonna think you're fucking crazy. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
All right, Al.
Well, anyway, what I was saying was, when I was growing up, I lived in an all-Italian neighborhood, and we moved from an all-Italian neighborhood to an all-Irish neighborhood. Okay. So I fought every single day, being the only Italian guy on the block, because the Irish guys were tough, and if you didn't, you couldn't kick somebody's ass, they would just they would stay on you. So I had a lot of fights. Let's just put it that way, a lot of fights growing up, and those guys are still like my best friends today. 40 years later, we still talk, right? And all the fights I've ever had, I can't tell you how many times I got punched in the face. Okay, and a lot of the times I would get a fat lip most of the times. I never really got a black eye or a bloody nose or anything like that. But growing up in that house, when we moved down onto that house, with the garage and everything, I used to wake up all the time with blood all over the wall on my bed and blood all over my pillow. Wow. And I would wake up and there would be blood everywhere. I mean, just everywhere. And my mother would go crazy because she'd have to wash all that stuff, And my father would say, "Can't you stay still at night?" And I go, "What do you mean, can't I stay still?" He goes, "Because you move around so much at night, you hit your face against the wall and you get a bloody nose." Me being a kid, I just accepted what he was telling me that's what was happening. But I got into a fight every day, got punched in the nose, and my nose never bled. You know what I mean? I mean, I got a cousin that if you just whiff by his nose, he still starts believing. Yeah. I mean, but I mean, never got a bloody nose, fat lip, bloody lip, And my father told me, and I never second questioned my father, you know what I mean? It's okay, if that's what it is, it is. But, when I got older and I would think about it, it's like, man, I got punched in the face so many times. I never got a bloody nose. Was that really what was happening, me hitting my face? What are the odds that you're going to flip it? I'm a flipper and I'm a flopper. But what are the odds my nose is going to hit the wall? Maybe my head, the top of my head or something. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know what was going on at night when I was asleep. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I was being taken or shit like that. I don't know. But all I know is every so often there would be a ton of blood all over the wall and a ton of blood all over the pillow, And so let me start with this is a really good experience. In 1994, my daughter was born. We were living down in Yonkers, and I was working up in North Yonkers at the post office. And a good friend of mine, we'll call him Kyle. And Kyle was a big UFO guy, and he kind of thought that he may have been abducted a time or two. So one night, it's maybe December of 94. My daughter's not even a year old. It's super cold outside, like 20 degrees. We're the last two guys to leave the office that night, right? And his car and my car are both parked facing this field that had a catch basin, and it was fenced in. It was a giant field. And both our cars are parked like facing New York City, right? And we're leaning against the cars, and we're just shooting the breeze. It's cold. But I mean, it's a cold night, but there's no wind. It doesn't feel that cold. And we're just BSing about UFOs and all kinds of stuff, because he was into all the cryptids and the ghosts and everything else. And we're just BSing. When I see a light in the distance, looks like a star, like over the city, right? Manhattan. and it looks like it's blinking to me. So I pointed, I said, hey, Kyle, look at that light, man. That thing is blinking. What's going on with that? What's up with that? And he's like, Al, don't start. You know, you're gonna freak me out. And I'm thinking, I'm gonna bust this guy's chops, right? I'm gonna freak him out tonight, right? So now, because I'm thinking in the back of my head that star, the only reason why that star is blinking is because there's high altitude clouds going by, and it's giving the illusion of being blinking, you know, because the sky was pitch black. It was like ink black sky. And so you couldn't even see high altitude clouds, but you know, so this is what I'm thinking. So I said, watch this, Kyle. I run over to my car, I turn the car on, and I do a Morse code with my headlights in my car, right? And hand to God, I swear to God, all of a sudden, this star, which is like a point of light miles away, you know, 15 miles away, comes zooming up on us. Boom. In a matter of seconds, it's 100 yards away from us on the other side of the field.
Oh, wow.
Kyle starts freaking out. He's trying to get back into the building, and I'm trying to stop him, because if he goes in that building now after it's locked, the silent alarm is going to go on. The postal inspectors are going to show up. We're both going to get arrested, you know? So I'm trying to stop him. I'm fighting with him at the door because he's trying to get in the building. He's freaking out. And I said, stop, calm down. And we're looking at this light on the other side, and it's just gliding. It's gliding towards us, but it's on the other side of this fence line above the trees. Now, again, this is late December, and there's no leaves on the trees. And all of a sudden, this white light drops out 3 red balls. And these balls are coming down, floating. They don't look like they're falling. And they get to a certain part of the tree line, and they just blink out. 1, 2, 3. And he's freaking. He like, what the hell is that? You know, what did that just happen? And we were just so locked in on where this craft was with these red balls that we didn't notice that the craft that dropped them wasn't there anymore. You know, because we were watching the balls come down in the sky, the tree line, because they never hit the ground. They didn't fly away. They just blinked off. So at one point, I hear a little voice in my head says, Al, look up. And I look up, and 10 feet, God, it was like 10 feet above the top of the building. The building was maybe 30 feet high, so it was like 40 feet away, is this blood. No, I mean this, what do you call that? That blue steel, like guns, that gun color, you know what I mean? That black and blue gun color, the blue steel that they make guns out of, right? There's this craft above our head, a triangle. Looks like a triangle, perfect triangle. And it's just got one light on underneath it. And it's right above us. It's not making any noise. I'm holding on to Kyle because he's freaking out. At the same time, I do a time check to make sure, you know, I know what time it is when we see this thing, right? And I'm looking at the tree line behind it. The trees aren't moving. There's no wind. There's no sound. And Kyle starts rambling off stuff. Maybe it's, you know, the stealth bomber, or maybe it's this, and maybe it's that. And I'm like, dude, you know, and I know the stealth bomber just can't. This thing looked like they pulled up and put it in park. You know, like it was a cab waiting for someone to come in, right? It's just in park. And I mean, I could have hit it with a rock. It was so close. So all of a sudden it turns like it's on an axis. It just turns very smoothly, and it just glides away towards the city. And as it's gliding back south, now I don't know if it was checking us out when it was over us, you know, scanning us or whatever. I never seen any light come down out of the craft or anything like that. And it's just floating away towards the city. And man, if you would have blinked, it would have blended into that night sky so well. You would have never seen it. You would have never seen it if you would have blinked. So then he jumped in his car and he went north up Parkway, and I went south down the Parkway. When I got home, we lived on the three family house. We were on the top floor, and I ran in and I told my wife, "You're not going to believe what happened." I run up on the roof. I grab my binoculars. I run up on the roof, and I'm looking around, to see if this thing followed me, because I said, let's see who it follows, if it goes south or if it goes north, you know. But the next day we got to work. I didn't miss, there wasn't any time missing from the time I looked at it to the time it left. There wasn't any time missing from when I left the post office to get home. I was only, 5 minutes away. And so there was no missing time. He didn't miss. Next day we shared notes and we talked about it. And he's like, what was that? And I was like, dude, I don't know what that thing was. I said, but what freaked me out was, what were the red balls that were dropped out of it? And where did those balls go? They just blinked out, Where'd they go? Just, So we discussed it the next day, and he's like, okay, let's stop talking about it. I was like, okay, no problem. And we stopped talking about it because it was. Then eventually he had to transfer down to Florida, and he transferred down, and I transferred out to a different station. 10 years later, when I move upstate. I'm 60 miles from the city. I live upstate, and my daughter and I, we're doing martial arts. We're doing Taekwondo. We're doing Hapkido, and we go to a family. We go to a family class, and we're at the class. And again, it's mid-December, super cold out, but there's no wind. It doesn't really feel that cold, but it's cold. It's a pitch black night. We're in the class for a couple hours. We get in the car. We throw all our gear and sparring stuff in the car, and we're heading home. And I'm driving up the road. My daughter's like 10 years old at the time, and she says to me, "Hey, Dad, we're being followed." And I look in the mirror. I go, "By who?" She says, "There's a UFO following us." And I start laughing. I was like, what's a 10-year-old kid know about a UFO, right?
Wow.
And I go, what makes you think we're being followed by a UFO? And she points behind me in my rear quarter panel on my left side. There's a light in the sky. She said, that light's been following us since we left the karate school. And it hasn't passed us yet. And I'm thinking, she's right, because we've hit stop signs, we hit red lights, we hit all kinds of traffic. And if this thing should have blown by us at some point. So I blow it off. I say, no, we're on the same road as the local airport. It's probably a plane or a helicopter just going to the airport. Don't worry about it. She's just like, she doesn't want to hear it. It's a UFO. And she says, it's a UFO, Dad. I'm telling you, and it's following us. And I was like, okay, man, it's a UFO. It's following us. We're going. All of a sudden, we get to the local airport. We make a hard right. We go north. And this light makes a hard left and goes south. And I go, see, it's just a plane or a helicopter going, it's going somewhere else. I was probably going to the airport. Then it turned around. She said, okay. We drive home. We're still about 20 minutes from the house. We drive home. We pull into the driveway. I live on a street. It's a cul-de-sac. A lot of woods around us, and no sidewalks, no street lights. It's pitch black. My neighborhood is pitch black at night. Pull into the driveway, the sensor lights on the deck go off. Boom, they light up the whole, the walkway. And she jumps out of the car, and she's running up the steps. She's going to run inside because it's cold. And we were sweating, so it's cold when you finish working out. Meanwhile, I got my head in the trunk. I'm taking out all the sparring equipment. All of a sudden, she starts screaming at the top of her lungs. So I drop the shit in the car, and I look up and go, what's the matter? And she says, Dad, look, over the house. And I go, what? She goes, look, over the house. It's a triangle-shaped UFO parked over my house. Oh, wow. I mean, this thing is just parked there. Now, this triangle is exactly the same as the one I seen 10 years earlier down in Yonkers. Same what's it called? Black metal, gunmetal blue or something like that. That's what it looks like, man. And it's the same one. And I'm looking at this and I'm pissed. I'm like, what are you doing parked over me? I was like, it's just pulled up to Jordan Park, right? So I tell her, go inside, get your mother and your brother. Tell them to come out on the deck. So my wife comes out with my son. My son is about, 2 years old at the time or something like that. 4 years old. Amanda was 10. So he's 4. He's 4 years old. They come out, and my wife was like, what's up? I go, look up. She looks up, she sees it. My son sees it, and she goes, oh, no, 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 no. I don't want to deal with this shit. And she goes in the house, right? She goes, I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah.
She goes in the house. So I get the equipment, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just looking at it, and I'm, you know, like I'm thinking, okay, if you can telepathically read my mind, what the hell are you doing here? How dare you come to my house where my family lives and you park over my house? How dare you? And again, if this thing's not moving, you can't see it in the night sky. It's pitch black, right? So as I'm standing there thinking, I'm saying, okay, now it's time for you to leave. You have to leave. The thing starts to leave. It starts coming by me. It just drifts all past me, floats by me, makes a hard left on my street, and it starts to go up the block. Now, I'm in the middle of the street looking at this thing because I don't want to take my eyes off it, because if I blink, I'll lose it in the night sky. And I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at it, and I'm watching it go, and it's just floating. I mean, no sound. I had a giant pine tree up by my house. It was like a 100-foot pine tree. The pine tree wasn't moving when this thing was parked over my house. There was no sound. My neighbor has giant antennas. He's a ham radio operator, you know, and
Yeah.
I don't see him coming out to check his antennas like he's got any kind of stuff going on, like this, you know, being trying to be affected his communications or anything, right? And I'm looking at this thing going up the street, and at the end of my block, we have power lines that run through the woods, and they run north upstate. And this thing stops over the power lines, and it drops out 3 red balls. And I was like, that's it, man. That's it. So I go in the house.
Wow.
I get myself on to my wife. You call me every 10 minutes. She goes, where you going? I grab my samurai sword, because that was my weapon of choice at the time when I was training. That's what I trained with. I grabbed my samurai sword, and I got my German Shepherd. He's a 125-pound German Shepherd. There are coyotes in the woods up here. There are black bears. You know, we got all kinds of animals up here. So I take my mag light, and I go into the woods, and I said, I'm going to find those 3 red balls. I said, you call me every 10 minutes just to check on me. And I went to the woods, and I'm looking for broken branches on the trees where these 3 red balls came down. I'm looking, it's the fall, so I'm looking for any kind of burnt foliage on the ground if these balls are hot and they land. I'm looking for any kind of round rock that doesn't look quite right. The power lines are fine. There's nothing wrong with the power lines. It's not like something broke the power lines. And I walked a mile north, and I turned around, came back and I walked a mile south, and I never found a goddamn thing. Not a goddamn thing. And I went in the following day during daylight hours again with the dog and the sword, and we looked again. I mean, I didn't walk that extensively, maybe 300 yards each way during the day, you know, but there was nothing. There was nothing to be found. I don't know what that was, why it was over my house, why my daughter knew it was a UFO following us, why it was parked over my house, and what was the, you know, this was the same craft I seen when she was born. You know what I mean? It was the year she was born when I seen this thing. And now 10 years later, to almost to the day, I'm 60 miles away, and it's parked over my house, you know? So, I mean, that just pissed me off. And I can't explain it. But that was just, I just couldn't believe that they were both triangle crafts, the same exact size. And then they dropped these 3 red balls out of them, you know, and it just blew my mind. I was so pissed, man. Like, how dare you come to my house? But if there's any questions, you want to hit me up with any questions?
Real quick. That's crazy that it happened like multiple times, like two instances, the same exact, you know, entities of beings with the ships with the 3 red you know, red dots flashing off.
Yeah.
Red orbs, and then they kind of drift off, and it's like that gunmetal blue color, the same thing. It's almost like it was following you over the years, and that could have been, you know, following you as a child is too. When you were a childhood in your home and you were out with your family, with your father. You know, when you were waking up bloody noses and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I mean, like, yeah, what are the odds of that, right? The same craft, you know, after 10 years.
I mean, if it would have been a triangle-shaped UFO, okay, triangle-shaped UFO, but to drop those 3 red balls out of it, I mean, and then they blinked out, and I watched them come out of the craft and just float halfway down the track and then blink out just like they did 10 years earlier. It was crazy.
There was no noise or nothing. No noise. Okay.
No noise.
Hey Al, first of all, B Moss said hi. Tell you she said hi. And I got a question from Daily Hunter, man. She said, did the red balls scan the house? Your house?
No, the red balls were at least I would say maybe 150 yards away, in the woods along the power lines. No, not even near my house. No, not by my house at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Eric Ogle says, what's up with the red orbs? Like what's that about?
I have no idea. I have no idea, man. Over the years, you think about it and you talk about it to other people and you pick other people's brains. I like to ask a lot of questions. My family hates me because all I do is ask questions. I always ask, but like I go, oh, Dad, don't start asking a million questions. No matter what we do. But I mean, I when I go to conventions or symposiums and I'm with other people and I like to ask questions and pick people's brains, and
right.
nobody knows what they are, and my hypothesis is that they're some kind of scouts or something, and they're scouting out the area, or they're scanning the area for something. I don't know, but that's what it feels like. That's the vibe I get. Like these things are being dropped out to go in different directions and scan or scout locations or something.
Like a recon kind of deal,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Dee's son would see the red balls before an abduction. That was from Daily Hunter, which is Lee.
Oh wow.
So
I'm getting there now with that's coming up next. But I don't know. I mean, I've never seen the red balls around my house, in my woods behind my house, in my backyard, or even across the street. We have hundreds of acres of wetlands. I never seen anything, like that.
Wow. Hey, B wants to know if do you think that they are drawn to you for a reason now?
I don't know if it's my family lineage. You know what I mean?
Could be.
My family goes back to ancient Rome. It goes where it's like an original. My name is an original name of Rome. So we go back to thousands of years, and Santariga, the definition of Santariga is holy line. That's what it means. And
really?
Holy line.
Yeah, the Santa's holy.
Saint. Right? Santa's holy or saint,
And Riga in Italian means line, so it's holy line. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I think Alfred or Alfredo in Italian means royal blood. So you got royal blood, holy line. You got a lineage that goes all the way to ancient Rome. I don't know. I did a thing recently for the Travel Channel. Can't really get into what we did, or what we seen because it hasn't aired yet. But I will give you a little scoop. They did take blood to see if I'm RH negative, because everybody thinks RH negative is.
Yeah, but it has alien genes in there. Yeah.
But my wife says every woman who gets pregnant has RH negative blood in them. So I don't know how valid that is. So
do you know what blood type you are, Al?
Yeah, I'm A negative.
A negative.
Yeah, but I was told by a blood person. I forgot what they're called. They have a special name for those people who take your blood, and they told me that you could be A negative, but the process to check for RH negative is a whole different process. Okay. So you could be A negative and RH negative at the same time. So, I mean, because I give blood all the time, you know, for the Red Cross and stuff. So that's how I know my blood type.
Hmm. We got a couple questions real
Yeah,
quick.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
absolutely.
B Moss want to know if you think dogmen are demonic. Um,
My theory on the dog man is there's three types. You have your flesh and blood dog
Ethereal.
man. You have your interdimensional creature,
Ethereal.
uh,
Yep.
right? That can come in and out of our dimension. Doesn't live here, but maybe comes here to hunt. You know, and then you have your demonic entity. You know, you're a supernatural thing that
Conjured up by a
or you know
yeah.
like what it go Wendigo kind of thing, or it's just something a demonic entity, you know. And those are the three type, I think. And I think when people shoot them and they don't die, I think they're shooting at a supernatural entity. And you know, and I think if they do shoot one and it's bleeding and they're tracking it and they lose the blood trail, I think they lose that because that creature went back into its dimension to
Right.
get help or whatever. You know, my personal one man's opinion. Nobody's wrong, nobody's right, but that's just where I stand with that.
Right. Cool.
We got one from Chris too. Chris wants to know what's the biggest challenge being an investigator for you?
Finding time to get out between family and work and stuff like that. It's finding time to get out. Yeah, I mean, and then you know when you live in the Northeast, you know you only have a small window of opportunity to get out there, because then the summers are too damn hot and it's too buggy, and the dead of winter is too damn cold, you know. So and I don't like to go out during hunting season either, you know, because you never know who's in the woods. You know, I know people that go out at night coon hunting, you know what I mean? And I don't want to be in the woods and either get attacked by, you know, red bone hounds or shot by a coon hunter either, you know. So
Right. Hey, there's a question from Eric, which is I think is a good one, Al. It says, does Al think they did something to him? Is that why they followed him over the years? Do you think that has something to do with it?
I think I've been taken, and I think they're interested in the bloodline, and I don't know if it's my father's bloodline from Rome, because that's where I get the last name and the family, or my mother's bloodline, who used to have um, the premonitions. I mean, my mother. It didn't matter where my mother was. My mother was a snowbird. Okay, in the summer, in the winter, she would go to Florida to stay with my sister. And if somebody in New York died, they would go to my mother first. My mother would see them the night they died. They would go there, and then my mother would call New York and say, "Hey, you know, Mary, check on Mary. I think she's dead." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" "I seen her last night in my dream. I think she's dead." And then they would go check on Mary, and Mary would be dead. You know,
Wow.
so yeah. Just I don't know if which or if it's a combination of both that they're interested in. But you know, I was talking to someone just the other day and telling them they're very psychic. The person I was talking to, and they believe that they were abducted. You know, they've been abducted many times. And I was like, well, have you noticed over the years the has your psychic ability has gotten stronger every time you've been abducted? Because that's like a byproduct of being abducted. Your psychic ability tends to be stronger.
Your consciousness opens up more.
And your psychic ability, and this person told me,
Yeah.
absolutely, they think as years have gone on and they've been taken, every time they come back, they're more psychically aware. Yeah.
Cool.
No more questions?
I think there was one more about Dogman and Bigfoot. Which one do you think would kind of
it doesn't matter. Oh, which one do I think would win the battle? I have no idea. You know, I mean, Bigfoot's dogmen. Let me explain this to you. Dogmen are terrifying. When you see them up close and personal, it's a terrifying beast. It's a big creature. They got an enormously big head, I mean, it fits their body, but their head is humongous. The one I seen, the head was humongous. Mouthful of all sharp teeth. Okay.
Hey,
Claws
Al.
on the hands. Go ahead.
Al, would you relate that to the movie Dog Soldiers? Have you seen that? How they have like extremely big heads for their bodies?
Yeah, no, I mean they
Would
do
you
look
compare
like
that
the.
to that?
Yeah, I do. I would compare it to that. But
Okay.
what I was saying was as intimidating and as scary as these dog men are, and they're, believe me, they're fucking scary. You know,
Yeah, that's what I heard.
when you see a Sasquatch for the first time up close and personal, your eyes can't comprehend. Your mind can't comprehend what your eyes are seeing, because you're looking at something not only that's 7, 8, 9 feet tall, but it's 4 or 5 feet wide and 3 foot thick. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that you know, if you're anybody who works out for a living, you know what I mean. You know how much you have to work
Yeah,
out to get a decent size, right?
They'll fucking flick you like a twig, you know.
And when you see
Well,
something,
you see how they throw them logs, man. Like they
yeah,
were nothing, dude. Like
nothing.
like we throw a broom, you know what I mean? Like what the hell?
Yeah, no, I mean they're so massive. So when you try to compare one to the other in a fight, it's like apples and oranges, you know. I don't know. I don't know who would win a fight. Honestly, I couldn't tell
What
you.
about more fearful? Which one's more dangerous, or which one would you be more scared of? I guess. Would you be
Oh,
able to
what the hands down, the dog men are definitely more terrifying, because they just they give off a presence of evil, and they give off a presence of like, I'm gonna just shred you. You know, I can just shred you if I want. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Whereas Sasquatches, unless you've pissed one off, and it's screaming, or you know what I mean, and it's like just going off. You're not gonna, and like if you just walk out onto a trail and there's one standing there, it's not the same kind of fear. You know what I mean?
Right.
All right. So, go ahead.
There's another question from David Hunter.
Absolutely.
He says, "Do they see UFOs by Nuclear Lake, and has been back there lately? Has he been back there lately?"
Yes, they've been seen. The Native Americans have talked about the Star brothers coming down. I mean, as long as this area has been there, it's been a sacred site, because they used to mine uranium there. Okay, I mean the Americans were mining uranium there, so who knows if the aliens were mining uranium there as well, thousands of years ago when the Native Americans were seeing them come down. They've also siphoned water out of Nuclear Lake. They're always in the area. There's another lake just south of Nuclear Lake called Whaley Lake. It's maybe a mile away, and I know a guy and his good friend of mine and his buddy were fishing on Whaley Lake one night, night fishing, and they seen a light coming down the train tracks, and there's a couple of prisons up in this area, and they thought it was a helicopter with a searchlight looking for maybe a escaped convict, you know. And then the light that was following the train track made a hard left and came straight towards them in the middle of the lake and stopped over them. And he said the next thing he remembers was 7 o'clock in the morning, and him and his buddy were laying on the beach, and the boat was on the beach too. And they don't know what happened after the light came to them, and then when they woke up. So they had like 7 hours of missing time. And him and his best friend never spoke again about it. And after I talked to him and I interviewed him, you know, I met him at a group where people were talking about it. And then since we lived pretty close to each other, we kind of became like friends, and I went to his house and hung out with him, and he told me everything. And then he said, after today, Al, you can't come back anymore. You can't talk to me about it anymore. I'm done with this experience. And then eventually he moved as well. They both moved down south. But I mean, you know, here's a guy, him and his best friend since they were like, you know, 8 years old, 5 years old, and they were in their you know, early 20s, and right after that incident, they never spoke again. So yeah, there's been UFOs sighted in the area. There's been counted abductions in the area as well.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, so let me tell you what happened to me. So I guess my daughter must have been a couple of years later, 94, 2004, 2005, 2006, something like that. My son was still small, and we had up here in the Northeast, a lot of the Native Americans get together, certain tribes like the Iroquois and the Algonquins and stuff like that, and they have powwows, you know. And so there was a powwow at this place called Bear Mountain State Park, and so I was going to take the family there one Sunday for a powwow. The powwow didn't happen until September. But in June, I started getting terrible migraines, and the light was hurting my eyes. And I went to the doctor every week. They tried all kinds of stuff. Nothing helped. And eventually the doctor said, okay, what we're going to have to do is a spinal tap. We're going to have to take fluid out of your spinal and see what's going on in you. Now, my cousin's a doctor, and he said, don't let them do that. He said they're going to suck the fluid out of your head, and your brain's going to be sitting on your skull, and you're going to be in so much pain. Don't let them do it, right? So I'm like, oh, dude, why did you tell me this, right? He goes, don't let them do it, cuz. Don't let them do it. So I said, okay, you know, I was debating on letting him do it because the light hurt my eyes. I had to wear dark sunglasses, and I was living with this headache for like 3 months, 4 months. And so we go to this powwow, and then we park the car and we go in, and they got like booths set up when you first go in, people selling all kinds of jewelry and stuff. And in the back of they had all kinds of arts and crafts in the field. And in the back of the field, they had I guess they had like the elders and stuff, right? So I'm walking in and I'm pushing my son in a stroller, and this little Native American guy, this old guy, comes out of one of the booths, and he says to me, you got a dark, your aura is black. He says, you got something attached to you, and you need to be cleansed. So I says, what are you talking about? I got something attached to me. He says, you got something dark attached to you, and you need a cleansing. You need it now. So he goes, I can do it if you come in my booth. We'll close the booth, and I could do a cleansing. So I was like, yeah, okay, how much is this going to cost me, right?
Right.
That's the way I was looking at it. This guy's trying to hustle me out of $50 or something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so I go in, and then I say, you know what? Let's. He goes, so he says, no, I'm not going to charge you anything. So I said, okay, maybe go in there, do a little peyote, come out feeling no pain, right? This is what's going through my head, right?
Peace pipe.
Yeah, right, exactly, right.
Peace pipe, yeah.
So I go in there, and he closes the curtain. It's getting real dark, and he's got this other guy banging on the tambourine, and he starts hitting me with the sage, and this room got so filled with smoke that you couldn't see. All you could hear is the guy with the tambourine going, and you could hear him chanting going around me. But I couldn't see him anyway. There was so much smoke. I thought it looked like the place was on fire. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? What's going? And this is going on for like 20 minutes. This is going on. And I'm just sitting there, man, and it felt like an out-of-body experience. It was weird. And opens up the doors, and all the smoke rushes out. And he says, I'm going to give you something. I don't want you to look at it. I don't want you to touch it with your own hands. I'm gonna get a stone, and I hear him digging in the back of the store. He's digging through all these rocks, and he gets a stone, and he gets this yellow leather pouch. He puts the stone in it, doesn't let me see it, closes the pouch up, and he says, wear this, and this will protect you from anything attaching to yourself anymore. But don't ever take this off, because you need to wear this for a long time. Okay, so I put it on. I walk out of his booth, and the headache is gone, just gone. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So I tell my wife, you're not going to believe it, but I don't know what this guy did. But the doctors have been working on it for 3 months. They can't get rid of it. This guy cleared it up in like a half hour. So we have a beautiful day. A beautiful day at the park. Yada 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 yada. Buy my son a little bow and arrow, handmade bow and arrow. And
It's fun. It's funny you say that because my uncle took me to a powwow when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and I actually brought my own bow and arrow. I had one of those crack bows where you put the string on and you do it yourself, and it had like
yeah,
cheap little rounded tipped arrows. And I took my own bow and arrow with me, and I shot. They had like a little target in the hay, and they had like a target practice thing. So I was practicing my archery, with all the people in the tribes, and I was just hanging out at the powwow, having a good time. My uncle was, doing things with people he was meeting and talking with them and doing like rituals with sage and whatnot. And I used to do a lot of that with my uncle, and it was a really good, like, you kind of felt good after you're done.
Oh, absolutely. I love that.
I've been to a sweat lodge once. I mean, I did a lot of native rituals with my uncle, and it was just, I was a lot younger then, but when I think about it now, I just have like an inner peace when I think about it, because when I did it, it just, like, whatever problems I was going through when I was a kid at that time, everything just kind of went away and
melted away. Yeah.
You're at peace with everything,
Yeah, no, I mean, I used to take the kids all the time. We have 2, 3 different ones that come through, and I would take them to all of them. You know what I mean? I loved going there. I loved being in that atmosphere with the Native Americans. So anyway, we leave the powwow. We go home. The headache is gone. Now, yada yada yada. Halloween rolls around. Okay. Now, my son is like a pirate for Halloween. My daughter's Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. Okay. We go. We do our trick or treating around the neighborhood. The whole neighborhood is trick or treating together with flashlights and stuff. Come home. Kids go through their stuff. We're exhausted because half of my neighborhood is all hills, It's like 2 hills, one above the other. And my kids had to go to every single house on both hills, you know what I mean? So yeah. I'm exhausted. And we come home, we go to bed. We're in bed. I got my 125-pound German Shepherd K9 dog sleeping at the foot of my bed. Kids are in the next room. And I'm still wearing my thing. But that night, the heat was pumping. It was really cold. And I started to sweat like a pig. So I took my necklace off and I put it on the counter next to me, the little table next to me, right? And I put it there, and I'm laying in bed and I'm sleeping. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, something like that, a bright light comes through my window, and it's like there's something lit up in my backyard, and the head of my bed is a big, like, block thing. It's got mirrors in it. It's got shelves in it. So for the light to come through my window, it's got to go through that headboard, And I'm laying in bed, and I see this light in my room, and I'm like, what the hell's going on, And I look around the side of the headboard, and I see the yard is lit up, and then the next thing I know, I'm out of my body. And I'm sitting on my headboard, looking down at me sleeping. And I'm looking at myself sleeping, and I'm thinking, what the hell is going on? And then out of nowhere, these 2 tall, gray aliens appear in the room. And they're lifting my body out of the bed, like just floating me up out of the bed. And they're starting to walk towards the window. And I'm thinking, first of all, why isn't my dog tearing these things a new asshole? I've spent a ton of money getting him K9 trained, right? And he's sleeping like a baby. My wife is sleeping like a baby. And then I'm thinking, how the hell are they going to get me out the window? It's closed and it's freezing outside. How are they going to get me out of here? How are they going to get my body out the window? And all this is going on, but it's like slow motion, And I'm still sitting on the top of the headboard looking at this, trying to figure this all out, when out of my daughter's room, my son and my daughter slept in the same room together at the time, my daughter starts screaming at the top of her lungs. She just goes off. As soon as she goes off, boom, I'm back in my body. The aliens are gone. The dog is gone. He's like a guided missile into the kids' room. There's no stopping him. My wife jumps up, I jump up, we run in there. She's wrapped around my son's legs, holding him down. My son doesn't know what's going on. He's crying hysterical, And I said, Samantha, what's going on? She said, Dad, you're not going to believe this, but a light came through the window of the bedroom, and then Dorothy appeared. I go, Dorothy? She goes, yeah, Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz appeared and told me that they had to take Nicholas out to the light. I go,
Oh, shit.
I'm trying to make this. I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, yeah, I said, why would it be Dorothy? Dorothy is good. You know, she's not the Wicked Witch of the West. Why Dorothy, right? And she goes, Dad, I'm telling you, I was fighting with Dorothy. I was holding Nicholas down. And Dorothy was telling me, you have to let him go. I have to take him to the light. And she was telling him, you're not taking my brother. You're not taking my brother. And she's arguing with this Dorothy. So, you know, I know that aliens can put false images in your head and make you see whatever they want you to see.
I was just going to ask you that. You know, you think they put like almost like a fake image, or they kind of put that mental image inside like a kid's head to get their trust, you know?
Right, because my daughter was Dorothy that night for Halloween. Yeah. So they figured she wouldn't be afraid if they presented themselves as Dorothy. But me, they showed me who they were, you know? Mm-hmm. I seen 2 tall gray aliens in my bedroom, you know? So anyway, we calmed the kids down. I look outside the back window, you know, I get my mag light. There's no craft in the backyard. There's no marks on the ground. You know, there's no lights in the sky. And we put the kids back there. I get the dog. I put the dog in their room, and he's sleeping between both beds. I said, the bandit is here. If Dorothy comes back, just let the dog take care of Dorothy, you know? And the next morning, we wake up, and I turned to my wife. I said, did that really happen last night? And she said, yeah, Amanda, you know, freaked out, screamed, and, you know, it really happened. And I was like, you know, I didn't tell her what happened to me because still trying to wrap my mind around what happened to my kids, you know? So anyway, everybody goes downstairs for breakfast. And I say, you know what? I took that fucking necklace off last night because the heat was pumping and I was sweating. Let me see what's in that necklace. So I take the necklace out and I pop it open. And there's a stone, which I thought was a sandstone because it looked like a sand colored, okay? With an elongated shape to it. And on the flat side, there's two dots for an eye, a nose, and a mouth. And it looks like an alien head. Okay? Oh, wow. And I got the stone. Hand to God, I looked at the stone and I told my wife, I said, come upstairs. I want you to look at something. And I said, what does this look like to you? I showed her straight on. She said, it looks like a face. I said, I turned it sideways. I said, what does it look like now? She goes, an all elongated alien head. And I go, yeah, this is the stone that the shaman put in my fucking bag to protect me. What? So she goes, I don't know what to tell you. So now the following year rolls around, I go back to the powwow because I want to talk to this shaman, right?
Yeah.
So I'm at the powwow and I'm looking around, and the shaman is not where he's supposed to be, where he was the year before. So I asked the organizer, I said, hey man, you the organizer? He goes, yeah. I said, where's the shaman that was in this booth last year? And he looked at me and he shook his head. He goes, nah, there's no shaman over here last year. I go, no, I'm telling you. Some dude brought me in and he cleansed me. He said I had something attached to my aura and he was over here. He says, no. He goes, first of all, because the Native Americans in the Northeast, we don't have shaman. We have medicine men. Because that's number one. Because right. number two, all the medicine men are in the teepees in the back of the park. There's no medicine men up here where all the gift shops are and everything. So I go to the back of the park to talk to the medicine men, and I tell them what happened to me the year before, and they're all shaking their heads now. You know, we don't know who you were dealing with. So I said, "Is this your stone? Is this a sandstone?" And they looked at me and they said, "First of all, it's not a sandstone. Second of all, it's not stones that we use." He goes, "This is a tiger's eye." He goes, "And this is something that they would either use, shamans from South America would use this, or shamans from the Far East would use tigers." He goes, "We don't use tiger eye up here. You know, we have other stones we use, but a tiger's eye is not something that the tribes that are associated with the fair would use." So I was like, okay. I don't know who that was. I don't know where who that guy was, where he came from, but he wasn't there the following year. And, I've held on to that stone forever. Okay. Now I'm going to tell you a story. It's going to really freak you out. when I did the thing with the Travel Channel, okay, I showed everybody that stone. I brought, but I didn't bring it in the original yellow pouch that the shaman put it in because it was pretty nasty and dingy from wearing it all those years, sweating. I bought a brand new pouch to put it in to bring to the cast shooting of the episode at the location, and I showed everybody, and everybody looked at it, and they filmed it, and everybody agreed it looked like a face on one side and a elongated head on the other. At some point, moving all the equipment around that we had, the camera stuff and everything, I lost the stone. Fell off the table into the woods. It was a brown tiger eye stone with all the leaf litter on the ground again, because this was in the fall. We did this, right? And stone was gone. It was just gone. So I get home the next day and I open up the pouch. I don't realize that I've lost the stone. I realized now I get home, I open up the pouch because I want to put it back in its original pouch, and I lost the stone. And I'm like, do I go back to look for it? And it's like, forget about it. How am I going to find it? It's a little brown stone in a giant woods with brown leaves. I'll never find it. So I said, the hell with it. You know, I had it for like 20 something years. I was really pissed that I lost it, you know, but I don't know if it's doing anything for me the last 20 years. Okay. So recently, my wife asked me, she goes, could you do me a favor and clean out the computer cabinet? I have so much equipment. I got bags and bags of paranormal equipment jammed in that cabinet. She goes, I'd like to use it to do the monthly bills in. That's what it was supposed to be for originally, but then you kind of took it over with all your crap. So I was like, okay. So I went out and I bought some tubs, you know, the Tupperware tubs, right?
Yeah.
To put all my equipment in, because I'm going to put it in the crawl space. So I'm going through all the stuff. I'm emptying it out. I'm putting in, and I got like, hand to God, I got like 5 tubs worth of crap, okay? And I come across the yellow pouch that the stone was in originally.
Wow.
And I feel it. And it feels like there's something in there. I open up the pouch. Fucking stone found its way back to its pouch.
What?
I got goosebumps just telling you that story. The stone found its way back to its original pouch.
Wow.
That's
I don't know how it got there. Honest to God, I know I had it on the table in the woods when they were setting up all their equipment, and I know it was, you know, someone just knocked it off the table with an equipment bag, and it fell, you know, because I never put it back in the brown pouch to bring it home, and I had the brown pouch the next day, and it was empty, and like I said, the yellow pouch was with all my paranormal gear in the computer desk, you know. It was empty when I took the stone. How to get back into its original pouch, and how did it go from the woods to my house?
Right. And another thing I wanted to ask you, Al, is like, how long was the time frame from when you lost it till it came back in the pouch?
Okay.
How long was that?
I would say it was a solid 2 months.
Wow.
Now
Damn.
I don't know if it found its way back to the pouch the very next day. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or sometime in that 2 months, but I had already chalked it up to losing it. It was gone, and I was a done deal. Because, like I said, I would, even if I would have went back to the woods to look for it, you know, and found that same picnic table we were doing the interviews on. You know, what are the odds I'm going to find a little brown stone in the middle of the woods? You know. That's a true story. It's hand to God, man. That thing found its way home.
Wow, that's crazy, man.
That's what I'm telling you about, crazy shit. So I understand, you know.
Yeah.
Any questions?
I don't know, Tom.
I was gonna say real quick, you know, with the stone thing. Do you think that, I mean, did you wear that after after that experience with your son? Did you put it back on and wear it for protection again after you saw what happened, or you just kind of kept it close to you?
No, I didn't wear it anymore because it was getting so nasty from working and sweating and everything. I would just keep it in my pocket. I would always have it on me, but in my pocket.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, didn't you mention something about you knew a friend, like a lady that had some kind of experience that related to something else that kind of made it, evident to you that you could confirm it and all that?
Oh, that was the woman. Yeah, over the summer, my partner Brian, we did a shoot for independent film company. The woman is associated with Stephen Greer somehow or some way. I'm not really sure, but she told us a story that blew my mind. She told us that her grandmother was a nurse for the military during the 40s. And her grandmother was a nurse, and then her mother was a nurse, and then she became a nurse as well. Well, after her grandmother died, our mother got all her grandmother's photo albums and everything, right? And put them in a closet and everything. And she said she never really looked through all the photo albums, And then her mother died, and she got all her mother's photo albums and her grandmother's photo albums. So as she was going through them, she comes across a picture of her grandmother in a military garb, like a military nurse garb, with like officers, like generals and stuff, and doctors in front of an alien autopsy body. Okay?
Wow.
So she calls her aunt up and she goes, "Where did grandma serve?" And when she was in the military, she said, "Oh, New Mexico, Roswell, I think."
Ooh, Roswell.
So she goes,
Yeah.
"Really?" She goes, "Yeah, she was a nurse at the Roswell in New Mexico." So now she's saying, "Okay, and the alien on the autopsy table is not like a 3-foot alien. It's like a 5-foot alien. It's full-size alien, right?" And the crazy thing about it is all like the officers and the pictures and the doctors, nobody's wearing masks. They're all just smiling for the camera, right? Standing behind the body. So she gets this picture and she says, "How can I validate this? This is a real picture, How do I So she looks on the back of the paper, and it says Kodak, and it has a code on it. Kodak is here in New York, in Rochester, New York. As an ex-photographer, all I used was Kodak paper, and all their Kodak paper, all their batches are marked, so they can track where everything went and where it went, when it was sold, and where it went to." She calls Kodak, and the guy says, "Send me a picture of the mark on the back, the code, and send me a piece of the paper too. Cut a piece of paper off." She sends it to Kodak. The guy calls her back and says, "Yes, this paper was sold to the U.S. Army, and it was shipped to Roswell, New Mexico in 1942 or something, 45 or something like that, And so she validated the date, and he said, "This is," and the guy said, "Yeah, well, the paper that you sent me, we tested, and it was the same make of the paper that we were processing at the time as well." So everything added up. The batch, code added up, the paper, the weight of the paper, and the quality of paper that they used, and it all went to Roswell because Kodak keeps track of all of their shit. So she says, after she did all this investigation work, she realized, what? This is a real photograph.
That's
and
crazy.
my grandmother was involved in the Roswell crash and in the dissecting of the alien body. And because she was the head nurse. So she was to be the only one that they were going to bring in to help do the autopsy. And everybody got a photograph of the autopsy with all the officers, and she was an officer too. Her grandmother, she got a photograph too. How crazy is that? So, and she showed me a picture of the photograph because she didn't want to, because it's old. She didn't want to take it around, But she showed us it, and I was like, wow, and I was like, I was blown away, And then she was really blown away. As a matter of fact, I think the name of her show that she's doing, she's putting a 2-hour documentary together. It's going to be called Aliens in Pine Pine Bush, which is the New York State capital of alien abductions and sightings. Pine Bush and the Hudson Valley. I think that's what she said the title of the show was going to be. And so she interviewed me, and she interviewed my partner Brian, and so we're going to be in her documentary. Like that one I could talk about because it's it's independent from from the network stuff. But so a few years after the last episode I told you about when I was abducted, I was going through some issues with my knees. I had to get my knees replaced from being a mailman. I'm carrying every day for 30 years. My knees wore out. So at this point, my daughter's older. She's a teenager, So we moved downstairs to the spare bedroom. She got our bedroom. My son stayed in the original room. So we were downstairs, and the dog is still alive, and we're sleeping downstairs in the bedroom downstairs, and I sleep on the side of the bed that faces the window, faces the backyard. So I'm laying in bed one night, and I'm sleeping, and a light comes through the window again, But, this time we just have shades and stuff, and the light comes through the window, and the light wakes me up when it comes in. So I'm laying in bed, and I wake up, and I'm like, what the hell is going on outside? Why is my backyard lit up like it's daytime, So I'm trying to figure out what's going on, because, again, it's the middle of the night, like 2 o'clock in the morning. When I look down at the foot of the bed to see if because the dog had his own dog bed at the end of the bed, and that's where he slept. And I look down at the end of the bed to see if the dog is up too, if the light woke him up. But he's snoring. The dog is out. And I notice in the corner of the room, there looks like there's 2 little shadows in the corner of the room. And I'm looking at these shadows. I'm like, what the hell is that? All of a sudden, these 2 small little 3-4 foot gray aliens come out of the shadow.
Oh, hell.
And one's by my feet and one's by my knees. And they're going like this. All right. And they're going, ooh, and they're going over my knees. And I'm looking at them, and I'm thinking, man, maybe these guys are here to fix my knees, and I don't have to get knee replacements, because I've been hearing some horror stories about these knee replacements, right? And I'm thinking maybe they're going to fix my knees, and they're not paying me any attention. They're just doing their thing. But these are the small ones, not the tall ones. And I'm looking at them, and I'm thinking, I wonder if these guys can hear my thoughts, Mm-hmm. So in my head, I'm saying, hey, look at me. I'm talking to you. This is what I'm saying. And it's like telepathically, this is what they're ignoring me, man. They're just doing what they're doing. So then all of a sudden, the one that's on my left side, he's moving closer towards me. Like they're working their way around me, and he's getting closer to me. And a thought goes off in my head. These guys are pretty scrawny little dudes, you know what I mean? This guy gets closer. I'm going to grab him by his arm, and I'm going to see if he can make me let him go. I'm a pretty big guy. This is a scrawny little thing. Let me see if he can make me let him go. And soon as that thought pops into my head, they both go like this. Ooh, and they back up, and they blink out, and they're gone. And the light goes off in the backyard. I jump out of bed. Of course, when I jump out of bed, the dog wakes up. I run to the sliding glass door, the patio in the back. I put the lights on. There's nothing there. But they heard all of my thoughts, and they ignored me until they heard the one that said, I'm going to grab this guy and see if he can make me let him go. So they can read your thoughts.
They can't read your mind?
Yeah.
Wow.
They hear your thoughts, put it that way,
Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't know what they were up to. You know what I mean? I don't know what they weren't the tall ones that were here the first time. It was like, maybe a good 5-6 years after that. Yeah, my daughter was about 15, right? So, she was 10 when it happened. So 5 years later, something like that. So,
yeah.
I mean, and those are my 2 possible alien abduction things. You know, if
Wow.
they're taking me, I don't know about it. You know.
Hey Al, I got a question real quick from Eric
Yeah.
Ogle. He said, do you think it was the mysterious shaman, whatever you want to call him,
Shaman. Okay.
shaman, that helped the stone find its way back to you? Do you think that had anything to do with it, or not really?
I don't know. You know, when he gave me that stone, he told me never to touch it because it would lose
Mm-hmm.
its protection powers. He said once
Mhm.
I touched it with my hands, it would lose, and never to take it out of the bag. It's not supposed to see the light. But that
Mm-hmm.
day, I threw it out of the bag because I wanted to see what the hell was in that bag, and I touched it with my hand. So I didn't know if it really lost all its protection power after that or not. But I always carried it with me anyway, just to be on the safe side.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe that stone is let me put this. Maybe that stone is when that shaman gave it to me, or whoever that guy was. He could have been an alien for all we know, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he programmed that stone to vibrate at the same vibration as I vibrate. And maybe that's why that stone was able to find its way home, because it followed my vibration. I don't know. That's what I'm
Right.
thinking.
Could be.
I'm thinking it was because he was going through all the stones. You could hear him like rattling through all these drawers and all these stones until he found the right one. You know what I mean? And
Right.
maybe it's got something to do with my vibration, my frequency that I let out. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Everything has to do with frequency. You're
Yep.
absolutely right. Hey, Tom, did you see the question Charlie Kylene
Yeah,
asked about are you in Rochester? Who's she referring to?
I think Al.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm not in Rochester. No, I'm in Dutchess County, New York, on the Hudson Valley.
Mm, cool.
Now you mentioned that you had brief conversation. You hung out with Travis Walton. Does anything like that he went through? Like he told you about some stuff that they remitted from the movie. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? From if anybody's seen Fire in the Sky, Travis Walton was the guy who was
Oh
abducted.
yeah,
Fire in the Sky. Well,
I
Al
love that movie.
Santariga had the opportunity of talking with him at an event, and he spent like the whole day with him and hung out with him and had
Really?
drinks with him, played guitar together, and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I
Can you
remember seeing
elaborate
that.
on any of the stuff that he told you? Like, is there anything that you
Yeah,
know that he didn't like that wasn't in the movie? I'm sure they
yeah,
produce whatever they want and they leave stuff out. Like, is there anything that's
right.
cool?
Well,
that
yeah,
he
you
told
know,
you?
the actually, when I met him, he had just redone Fire in the Sky, but he did it the actual way it happened, and he was selling CDs, you know, and he autographed one and gave it to me. And so if you get his version of it, you'll get the true event. But
Okay.
the biggest thing I took out of that was that he said to me, he said two things. He said, A, they weren't trying to kill me when they hit me with the beam of light, but I was so close that the beam was so powerful that I think I was. He told me he thought he was dead. Okay, number one, and he said number two, they brought him back from the dead and saved him. And when they dropped him off, the reason it took a week for them to bring him back was
Mhm.
because it took his body that long to recover from that blast that he got, that they hit him with.
Oh, that the original one they hit him with to beam him up into the craft, right? Is that the
Yeah,
one you're
well,
talking
he said they no when he was walking, when he was actually walking towards the
about?
craft, it
Mhm.
shot out a beam of light at him and
Oh
hit
wow.
him and sent him flying. He said sent him flying like 20 feet.
Oh, not
And
pulling them up to the craft,
no,
but
no,
oh,
no,
okay,
no.
like a little
He
blast.
said when he hit when that beam hit him, that was all she wrote. He didn't remember anything. He
Okay.
doesn't. He says, but obviously they came back to get him because his friends took off,
Mhm.
and they were in the
All right.
craft. The craft was leaving. It was starting to rise when it hit him with that beam of light, and his friends were leaving. Even though some of the guys wanted to go back, the other guys were too
Right.
scared. So if that craft didn't come back down to get him, he would
He
have
would have
died
died.
right there in the woods. Yeah, he would have been dead.
Yeah, because
He
of the
told
blast.
me, he said, Al, he says, and we were hanging. I got pictures of it on my Facebook thing. If you go to one of the albums, you'll see we were all hanging out at a party at my friend's
Mhm.
house. He stayed at my friend's house for 2 nights. and we're all hanging out there, and you could see us in the backyard partying and drinking and bullshit. And he told me, he said, A, they saved my, he goes, A, they killed me, and B, they saved me, brought me back. He said, and that was two things that they didn't want to put in the movie whatsoever, because they just thought it was too much at the time. Because you got to remember, that movie was made like in the late 70s, early 80s. Yeah. So.
88, 87.
And you know what? The what I like about that I think that's why I think that's like my favorite movie, because the actual factual date that it happened was one day after I was born.
Oh, wow.
It happened on November 5th, 1975. And I was born on the 4th.
Wow.
So, no, actually, one day after I was born, yeah.
Okay.
So you were a day old.
Yeah. So like, damn.
I mean, when he told me that, you know, you got to imagine, like, everybody sitting around a fire pit, right? And there's like 20 people there, and everybody's drinking. And you know, I'm not the only guitar player there. There's like 3 other guys that play guitars, and everybody's having a good time. And he's telling his story, and the place just goes, you could have heard a pin drop, you know? And when he told me that, he just blew me away. Like, you know, I would have never known. I read the book before the movie came out. I seen the movie, and neither one of them say that. The book doesn't say that, and the movie doesn't say that. But he told me, you know, face to face, you know, and that's was the big aha moment in that conversation. Like, wow, yeah.
Yeah. I bet you that was an interesting conversation for sure, man, with Travis Walker.
Yeah, because there was a bunch of people there. There was a lot of celebrities there too. Peter Robbins was there, and Travis Walton was there, and there was a couple of other. There was a woman, I forgot her name. She was a paranormal celebrity, and there was a whole bunch of celebrities. They were all like crashing at my friend's house, and everybody was. And he's like, "You got to come and hang out." And I was like, "Yeah, you don't have to twist my arm. Travis is gonna be there, no problem."
Oh yeah.
What was that date again that happened? Cindy wanted to know.
11. I think it was November 5th, 1975, a day after my birthday. Well, at least that's what the movie says, and it says it right on the cover. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that's the day. Yeah, because like I said, I got Travis's CD. I don't even play it because he autographed it for me. It just, you know, he gave me the CD. He said, he goes, watch this. He goes, this is what really happened, you know? And I was like, okay. I think I got the one he autographed. I put on the side, and then when we went to the symposium the following day, again it was called Pine Bush UFO Fair, and we're going to be there again this year, the Bronxville Paranormal Society, along with the New York State UFO Project, which is another group that I'm a director of, and we're gonna present there, and we're gonna do a CE5 at the end of the night. A couple of years ago, we did a CE5 and actually brought a craft in. And there was people there watching it, and just blew everybody's mind. We had Germany. There was a German television station there interviewing us, and they were there filming it as well. And we actually brought a craft in, and we had to do maneuvers for us. We had to do Morse code for us, and even when it was ready to leave, and this craft went from mountain point to mountain point, which was been like 20 miles apart in a matter of a second. We said, through our mental telepathy, we said, wait, don't leave, come back one more time. And it did, it stopped, and it came back. And then it did these flashes of light. And every time it flashed, it was brighter and brighter. Man, when I tell you, the last time it flashed, it lit up the night sky like it was daytime. And those people, and this was like 11 o'clock at night. And those people that were at that CE5, because it was part of the UFO fair, it was free to the general public, you know, so they didn't have to pay to come and see it. And those people that were there, and that German television crew that filmed it, they were just blown. Like, wow, you guys are amazing. You bring in UFOs and everything, you know. And we were like, yo, I was going through chemo at the time, so I was so tired. I've been up I was up since like 5 o'clock in the morning. So I told my partner Brian, I said, yeah, you got this. I'm exhausted. But once that craft came in and it started doing all that stuff, I got energized. I felt like I was wired out of my mind. Yeah. It was crazy. It was an amazing night, just amazing night. And I got like, you know, if I don't know what time it is, but you guys want to call it a night or whatever you want to.
9. I got 9:15. What do you got, Tom? 8:15.
10:15.
10:15. Sorry, yeah. You're
Because
ahead of me.
I got more sightings I could tell you about that are just amazing. You know, if you want, or we could call it a night, whatever you want to do.
It's up to you. I mean, I could go for like another 10 minutes if you want.
It's up.
Well, how about we close it up at 15, Tom? Another 15, and we'll close it up.
I have one quick question for you, Al. For me now, you were saying when you back in your past and like first couple of experiences when you were younger, you would flash the Morse code with a flashlight, or you did it from your car, and you were able to interact. You think that's a way of doing it? Like if you saw something in the sky, you hit the Morse code on whether it was a car light or a flashlight. You think that would interact back with you, or that was just something that you personally did on your encounters?
That's a damn good question.
You know what? It's just something that I always did, and every time I do it, now I don't know if it's just me, but every time I do it, and when I say Morse code, I don't actually mean real Morse code.
SOS.
Yeah, SOS, something like that.
SOS.
But every time I do it, and I did it that night with the UFO at the Skywatch as well, and every time I do it, I always get a reaction. I think it's their way of letting you know that they know you're watching them. You know what I mean? So like, they can hear our thoughts, but we can't hear theirs unless we're, you know, super psychic kind of person, right? So if you do a Morse code with your flashlight, and I always have like a tactical flashlight on me, I do a Morse code with that,
1,000 lumens.
And they see it, and they do it right back. They're acknowledging me. They're saying, hey, we see you. You know what I mean? So I would say if you see something in the night sky that you can't figure out what it is, and it's not making any noise, and it's, you know, it's not flying like a conventional aircraft, and you got a flashlight handy, or you're by a car, I would say do it. And I mean, but you know what? That's me. I mean, of course, if you do it, you're inviting them in.
Yeah, you're inviting them to come get you from your house and pick you up in the space.
So be careful what you ask for, because you may lose time. You know what I what I do when I see something like that, if I do something like that, the first thing I do is a time check. Always do a time check, and then when everything is said and done, I do another time check just to make sure I'm in that right parameters, that everything is okay, that I didn't lose any time, you know? So,
hey, you know what I do sometimes? Well, I haven't done it in a while, but I used to do it a lot. I have a military grade laser beam, right? It's very, very strong. It goes for like, I'm gonna say about a good 5 miles up in the sky. But I used to be smoking, go outside, smoke cigarette, because I don't smoke in my house. And I would go out, you know, late at night, like especially in the summertime when it's not cold outside or anything like that. And I'd be smoking a cigarette, and I'd just be, you know, flashing my beam like that, you know, just, you know, in the night skies. It looks cool, whatever. And one time I was doing that, and something just flashed like I think I hit it by accident, and it just zoomed, you know, like out of the way. So I'm thinking it was a UFO, because a shooting star like starts way over here and it shoots and it goes all the way like that. Okay, so this one wasn't. This one was like just sitting there, and as soon as I hit it with the beam, it was just like from one place right here. As soon as I hit it with the beam, it just went took off. So I'm like, damn, it must have been a UFO or something that I might have hit with the laser, or he probably just seen the laser.
Or when we do our C5s, I have a green laser as well and a red laser, right. And when we see something in the sky, I'll circle it with the laser. Not, I won't hit it with the laser, but so that the other people who are with us at the C5 can see what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about. But I wouldn't hit it with a laser, because they may think it's some kind of energy weapon, you may get response back.
Mine was just a random.
Right, you were just going like this, right? Yeah.
That's crazy.
But,
never thought of that.
You know what? I thought about that time, that one time that I hit it like that. Like, man, I better stop doing that because they might get pissed off and zoom right down in front of me. You know, like 10 feet away, 10 feet from me. You know, and just want to do something to me, man. So like, I better stop doing that.
Yeah, because
But,
if
yeah,
that's something that they're used to as some kind of weaponology, you know what I mean? Energy weapons, lasers, and stuff like that, and you hit them with their craft with it, they may think they're
yeah,
under attack or something. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
That's what
Yeah.
I'm
So
saying. Yeah,
yeah.
You'll have the damn
yeah.
mothership come down and start messing some stuff up, you know?
Oh,
That's right.
I got one more before you go. I got a great one before you go. Thanks. You reminded me when you said the
The
mothership.
mothership, yep.
One time I just picked up, I had a 1984 Mustang convertible hatchback, right? And I'm working down in Yonkers. I'm living up in Bridgeport, Connecticut. It's like 60 miles away from where I work, 50, 60 miles away. And I'm cruising up the Parkway one night, the Merritt Parkway. I'm cruising up the Parkway. And I always, where all the speed traps are on the Parkway where the cops side, right? So, I'm cruising in the Mustang and I'm just flying up and down the Parkway. And then I'm coming up over this ridge and the car starts bucking like it's losing power, right? So I said, let me get off the Parkway before someone gets me from behind. At the same
Right.
time, I'm listening to the Yankee game on the radio, and the game is going, the static white noise starts coming through, the car's bucking. I'm like, what the hell's going on? I get off the Parkway. I'm at the top of this hill. I get off the Parkway, and I'm like, oh, man, I can't believe my car broke down, And I look down the hill, and all I see is cars parked on both sides of the Parkway. I see taillights going north up the Parkway and headlights coming down south, but it's still daytime out. You know what I mean? It's like 7:30 at night in July, so there's still plenty of light out, but everybody's got their lights on. And I see all these cars, and I see a state trooper down at the end of the thing. And I'm looking, and I'm thinking, oh, man, there's supposed to be a motorcycle accident or something, because I don't see any regular cars like smashed up or anything. So I said, in the meantime, I'll walk down there and ask him to call me a tow truck. So I walk down to the trooper and I go down to him and I said, what's going on? Motorcycle. And he looks at me and he goes, look up. And I go, look up. He goes, yeah. Now the whole time I was on top of the mountain, the hill, it never dawned on me to look up. I was always looking down. I get to him, he tells me to look up. And there is this mother craft over the Parkway. It's wider than the Parkway is. It goes on past the Parkway on both sides, and it looks, hand to God, it looks like the Roman Colosseum. That's how big it is. Okay,
Wow.
It looks like the Roman Colosseum parked above the trees. Everybody is out of their cars. Everybody's out of their cars. Everybody's looking up. No one's running around like it's the end of the world, like chickens. Everybody's just up out of their cars, looking up in amazement.
Amazed. Yeah, amazed. Yeah.
Dumbfounded. Just dumbfounded at what they're seeing. So I turned to the cop and I said, well, what do you think it is? And he goes, what are you, being a wise ass? Because it's a UFO. What do you think it is? I go, yeah, it looks like a UFO to me, And we're just looking at it, and everybody's looking at it, and all of a sudden, and it's sitting there, man. It's sitting there for like 10 minutes over the Parkway. There's no cars moving. All of a sudden, this thing, in a blink of an eye, it pops up, just boop, like that, at like 1,000 feet, and you hear all the cars start up. All the cars on both sides of the Parkway start up, and the cop's radio starts working. So he gets on the radio and he calls dispatch. He says, listen, I need you to scramble two Air National Guard from the Bridgeport Airport. I got a UFO over the Parkway between these two exits. So the dispatcher says, okay, I'll call the airport. He calls the airport. They scramble two, I don't know what they were, F-14s, whatever the Air National Guard has. But they weren't like Warthogs. These were jets, right? And
probably Raptors.
No, they weren't that advanced back then. No, it was like okay. F-15, something like that.
Oh, what year was this? What year was this, Al?
85, 84,
oh,
85.
Okay, there must have been F-15s or F-16s, or even F-14s.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it could have been F-14s because it was an Air National Guard. It wasn't the air base. So anyway, now I'm eavesdropping. I'm sitting right next to the cop, the trooper, and the dispatcher says, "I'm going to put you through to the lead pilot." So the lead pilot's talking to him, and he goes, "I don't see anything on our radar. Is it still there?" And the cop is like, "Yeah, it's right here, right above the park." He says, "Well, I got visibility from my plane. I can see like 10 miles, and I don't see nothing with my eyes. I don't see nothing on my radar." And the cop's like, "I don't know what to tell you because it's right here." So the lead pilot says, "Well, we'll be there in like 30 seconds, okay?" Because they're not far away, from where I am. I'm in like not Stanford. I'm in like Fairfield, Connecticut, and they're in Bridgeport, Connecticut. So all of a sudden, as soon as that pilot says we'll be there in 30 seconds, this ship that was the size of the Roman Colosseum goes straight up, boom, blink of an eye, it's gone. It's gone. It's up in the heavens, right? Now these two F-14s come roaring down the parkway, just above the tree line. The trees are blowing, the ground is shaking. Man, it felt like the end of the world. These things roar by us, and they turn around and they come back up the parkway again. The whole time this giant craft is there, trees aren't moving. There's no wind. There's no sound. There's no nothing. These two F-14s blow by, and it felt like the end of the world. And they turned around. They went back, said, "Okay, we're going back to base because we don't see anything." I get home, and my brother is listening to it on the radio. He's listening to this show, a radio show in Bridgeport. He's painting my apartment. I got the attic apartment in his house. He's painting the apartment, listening to the show, and they're talking about this mothercraft UFO flying over Bridgeport, and it's headed west. So my brother says he's running out of the house. He runs out of the house. He goes to the highest point in our area, which is like some Catholic school, to get pictures. He's got his camera. He's like, "I'm gonna have the smoking gun." He goes to this. Then he hears on the radio that it turned and it went south. Now it's going south. It's coming towards me.
Hey Al, so they the Jets never seen it. They never.
They never seen it on radar. They never seen it a visual. Never seen it. Like, so from wherever their height was, either it was invisible to them, was cloaked to them. You know what I mean? Maybe they seen the Jets coming. You know what I mean? But to us, it was we were right underneath it, and we seen it. I come racing into the house. My brother comes racing in the house. He's, "You're not gonna believe it. Awesome. I was listening to the radio. There was a UFO in Bridgeport." I go, "Calm down. It just was over my car on the parkway." He goes, "What do you mean?" And I tell him the whole story, and he's like, "I don't believe you've seen it." I go, "Frank, I'm telling you, it was as big as the Roman Colosseum."
Oh man.
Yeah, that's amazing. That was that's big. To see that up in the sky above you,
that's something the size of a stadium. I mean, the size of a stadium, double wide. I mean, it's insane. The size of that
Roman
thing.
Coliseum.
And there was
how big is the Roman Coliseum, Tom?
I mean,
does anybody know how big the Roman Coliseum is?
Huge, but just to think of something that big, not making any noise, no wind. I mean, the propulsion on that thing must have just been insane to hover that high and just be like, intact, no noise, no nothing, just hanging out there, solitude. Yeah. And everyone watching it and everyone seeing it, it was just hanging out there. It blows my mind away that they can do that.
Yeah.
And so the propulsion, I mean, the anti-gravity to move that thing, the energy, it's insane.
It's insane, yeah. I mean, because
it's mind-boggling.
When I explained it to my brother, when I first got home and I explained it to my brother, I said, "Frank, it was as big as Yankee Stadium, Yankee Stadium holds 50,000 people." But then when he said, "Describe it to me," and I described it to him, he said, "Well, it sounds more like the Roman Coliseum." And I said, "Yeah, it did, because it looked like all those arches in the Coliseum looked like windows to me, like different floors. And I was looking to see if I could see anybody looking out.
You know what's weird? I talked to a guy not too long ago, and he's going to come on in the future soon. I'm going to call him Bob. And he told me back in I think it's the early 80s or late 70s in North Carolina in the mountains on one of the highways, the interstates, he was driving back from a car show, and he looked up in the sky, and it looked like he said it looked like something you see like a lit up baseball stadium. All the lights are up. And he said eventually he stopped and pulled over, and all he saw was a huge triangle the size of like a football stadium, and it was just hovering over a farm with the light beaming down onto the farmhouse. And he said it was just a huge triangle. When he described it to me, and he sent me some pictures of it as well, it looked identical to what they saw in Arizona back in like maybe 15 years later, the Arizona lights. And I just put two and two. I was like, man, that's crazy how these triangular shaped things have been around for a long time, and people have been, identifying them and having accounts of them for forever. I mean, since the 70s.
The three UFOs that I seen, they were all cylindrical. Like they were all oval. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Not cylindrical, oval. Because there are some that are cylindrical, like a long tube. There's some that are triangle, like the ones they said that the Phoenix lights, they were all triangles. But the ones I've never seen any of those. I've just seen the oval ones, the classic.
I think some of the triangle ones are the government made them, the TRB-3s. I mean, they.
Oh yeah, they've been around for a while. Yeah.
Government made UFO that we pretty much replicated from Area 51. But what were you gonna say, Al?
No, I said I've seen triangles. I've seen V's.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen stadium lights, like a rectangle, look like stadium lights. When I tell you, it look like stadium lights, I thought someone built a stadium. Okay, I seen something that looked like an egg beater. That gave me a bad vibe, scared the shit out of me.
Oh, wow.
I seen something that looked like a delta shape, like on the delta shape on the airplane. I seen a delta shape one. I seen of course I seen the circular ones, the saucer ones, and I've seen the ones that look like the cigar shape. I've seen all of them. Yeah,
right. Cigar shape and all that. Hey, David from Texas was saying triangle ones are not military, definitely extraterrestrial. But I don't know, because that Treb is a triangle one.
Yeah, the
and
TRB-3 is triangle.
Obviously they got that from what is it called?
The
back reverse engineering from a down one. Obviously, they got that from there, man.
Plus, if you remember, back in the 70s, the Concorde, the supersonic jet, was a triangle-shaped craft. The Concorde was the Concorde. The Concorde,
the Concorde was, yes, the front was.
The Concorde was a triangle. I was on the Concorde. I walked through the. They had one on display, and I walked through it. It was really small on the inside, but from the outside, it looked like a triangle.
Looked like a triangle.
The F-117A that they used in Iraq and the Gulf War Desert Storm was triangular shaped, and they were actually made in the 70s and not used until the early 90s because they were tested in Area 51.
Are you talking about the T something bombers, the ones they used on the movie Broken Arrow? Those
F-117A, they're like triangular looking.
No, those he's talking about the fighters. He's not talking about the bombers.
Fighters, yeah.
Okay, I'm talking about the bombers.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if y'all seen the movie Broken Arrow back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Those were like the very first ones that they got from reverse engineering from the aliens, because they were undetectable on the radar and they were triangle shaped. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, and in their windows, like their cockpit was like triangle shaped.
Triangle shaped too. Yeah.
Those were like the very first ones. Now they got even more advanced ones, and now they got the Treb, which they publicly came out with the Treb. That me and David Duke from Texas, we were always talking about that, but it wasn't out into the public yet. Now they have.
You can Google it. You can Google it and see pictures about it all day long. If you should look at the images, you can see what they look like, and they're freaking insane.
Yeah, they are, man. Yeah, they are. But they kept it secret for so long until like maybe about not even a month ago. They brought it out. We were like, yeah, see, there it goes. See,
that's what we already knew about. The Navy disclosure with ATIP and all that, and Eduardo, the guy from ATIP, he brought a lot of that out, and he made the government disclose it because they didn't have nothing else to do.
Yeah, you know what? If you just buy Popular Mechanics magazine, you'll see all the high tech. Military equipment before it comes out, like they always have images of the new shit that's coming out, and then you don't see it actually in the public for like 20 years. Right.
Hey guys, well, I know y'all want to wrap this up, but I do want to say that we're definitely gonna need a part 2 and maybe even a part 3.
Yeah.
Because
And I still got to get to my encounters too that I promised Al. We definitely got to continue this. Part 2 coming soon.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of sightings, you know what I mean, that we didn't even discuss tonight. You know, just different kinds of craft doing different things. Nothing spectacular, but just different.
Hey guys, I got a fun fact from Lee. He says it's rumored that the stealth bombers, the ones I was talking about, have anti-gravity capabilities, man. Wow. Like no noise, just hovering. You know, anti-gravity shit.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but you know.
Well, they are silent though. I'll tell you that. They are silent.
Maybe they're making 2 of them, and there's one that's anti-gravity and one that runs off of fuel. You never know.
Yeah.
I haven't heard anything about that.
As silent as can be for a motored, vehicle, but
Well, if you're 50,000 feet up in the air, you're not going to hear it anyway. So
but they don't roar like the F-16s, F-14s, and nothing like that. They don't roar like that.
No.
They try to make them the most silent they could. So,
well, like I said, the higher you get, the less sound you're going to hear. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And Tom, let's thank everybody that showed up, man. David said, "Great show, y'all." Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
And he said, "Always a great show with you, Al." He said that earlier. And Lee, everybody, my daughter, Wally,
Charlie,
Mendoza, Charlie,
B
Moss. Yeah, who else showed up, guys? Y'all remember? Do you remember?
Cindy Kent, our artist.
Cindy, the artist, with the great artwork. Richard B. Yes, sir. David from Texas.
We had Eric Ogle came in.
Eric Ogle, yeah, he's a good guy. He's always supporting us, man.
Love you guys. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I love everybody, man. We enjoy that you enjoy our shows. You know what I mean? That makes the whole thing, like a better
makes it
experience for us.
Makes it worth doing.
Yes, makes it worth doing. Yes, exactly that. You enjoy it, that makes us want to do it more. You know what I mean? And,
absolutely.
So thank you everybody that came out. Al, do you have any finishing comments or anything, bro?
No, just come and join the Bronxville Paranormal Society and the New York State UFO Project, North American Dogman Project, New York State chapter, and the New York State Sasquatch organizations. I'm director of all of them with my partner Brian, and come and join us. And I got a phone call from Vic tonight, and there's somebody in the area with a Dogman issue, and I'm going to talk to them on Monday.
Wow. Cool. Yeah. Awesome, brother.
That's pretty badass, man. That's why we call you. That's why we call you the Godfather. Forget about it. My good
about it.
Forget
Boston,
about it.
New York over there.
Got the Godfather over here.
We appreciate you, Al. We appreciate you. We're gonna do this again. We're gonna do this again.
I hope it was entertaining, and I hope everybody enjoyed the show.
We loved it.
Great show. I think it was a great show, Al.
Thank you. I really I don't talk about my abduction stuff too much, so
right.
I'll break it out for good friends.
Appreciate that. It means a lot to us.
Yeah.
Yes. Tom, do you have any finishing comments, brother?
I just want to thank everybody for coming out. We had a great show with Al. Everyone showed up and came out and asked some questions. It was in the chat, and just thanks for all the support. We want to let everybody know that we're pushing to move this show forward. We're going to be coming to the YouTube platform, or with StreamYard coming on. So just get ready for it, because we're ready to grow. We're ready to make this thing grow and get out more platforms and let more people see and hear the truth that we're putting out in this world. So appreciate you all.
That's right. Yes, sir.
I got one more thing I'd like to say, if you guys don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
The Bronxville Paranormal Society, in association with the New York State UFO Project, are doing a once a month meetup on YouTube. And we'd like everybody to come in and hang out. And basically, it's just a Q&A the whole night. You know what I mean? So come in once a month. We'll post everything on our site so let everybody know when it's coming up. And come in and ask as many questions about any subject you'd like. So that's what we're doing now.
When is the next date for that, Al?
It's going to going to be the end of April because my partner Brian is going down to Florida for a couple of weeks. So when he gets back from Florida, yeah.
We're gonna post it for you anyway. Here,
Yeah,
post it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We'll make sure to look out for that.
Okay.
Like,
thank you, guys.
April. Yeah, no problem, man. No problem. All right, guys. Well, I think that's it for tonight. And like we said, we're gonna continue with Al, maybe a part 2 and a 3, because there's just so much to cover with him. he's our walking encyclopedia over here. So yeah, we'll see y'all next time. And thank you everybody for showing up and showing out, supporting me and Tom and Al. Thank you very much, guys. We love each and every one of y'all, and we're looking forward to see y'all next week. I think we're gonna have the UFO guy next week, right, Tom? Is that correct?
Kelly Gauthier.
Kelly, yes, we're gonna have him on next week. So, and hopefully some of his people will come from his group. So yeah. All right, guys, that's it for tonight. Then we'll see y'all next time. And with this, we are out.
Good night.
Peace out, everybody.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, guys. I can't believe how fast the time went, man. It's just
I know. That's what happens. Time flies when you're having a good time.
Time flies when you let it go.
Yeah.
It was fun.
All right, guys. Later.
Good night.
Yes, sir.
Good night.
Good night.
Ciao.
Good night.